Cool. All right. Yeah, Ben, you're an author, you're a father, you're a content creator too because you have your own podcast, so you're a podcaster. Are you a brother?
I am a brother.
You're a brother,
Yeah.
you're a son, you're a husband. You got a lot of interesting titles going on for you, but the one that I really want to talk about today is your book, and it's called the Made for Adventure book. I almost said the Made for Adventure podcast because it's one and the same. And of course, it's back here in the background, but of course, I have a little copy right here as well. And it says Chase Your Adventure, and it's signed by the man himself, Made for Adventure,
All right.
Ben Locke. So I wanted to have you on the podcast to kind of a few different things. Talk about some of the content of the book. I've only gotten about to chapter 5 or so, but what I'm more interested in is when did the first idea of this book come like into your mind?
Yeah. So I was at a campus ministers retreat about 2 years ago, and had this idea on my heart after my first full year of campus ministry had come to a close, where just like this theme of adventure had been popping up, and like just the aspects of like I feel we we're designed not to live just boring lives, boring 9 to 5 lives, but to have an adventurous heart. I think when you read scripture and dive into the Bible, like you see the things that the people did there were not boring at all. They had adventure after adventure in their lives, and so really felt this like idea like growing in my heart, and just felt like need to get it out on paper, otherwise it's never going to get out. And so while I was there at that retreat, I actually started writing words on a laptop, and they weren't necessarily the greatest words, but but it was at least a start to get things rolling. And yeah, eventually 40 to 45,000 words later,
Wow.
there was a book in there.
That's so crazy. I mean, I I think everyone at some point in their life has wanted to write a book or, do something creative like this. I mean, you've done the book, you've done the podcast, and you're doing all these interesting things. And it seems like from what I've read for the first like 3 to 4 chapters, a lot of these moments that you've had with Christ have been at camp or going to camp or a retreat in itself. And it seems like whether it was the camp or being in nature and being, in that element, it seems like there was a connection. Like, would you say that's pretty accurate?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've always loved camp, and like always loved like the retreats and stuff, just because like you're taking a step back, and usually at those different places, like they're the perfect spot to um, meet our creator. And just like you're in nature, you're typically like not on technology, or worried about like your normal everyday life. You're kind of disconnected from those places. And so being at camp or being at a retreat that's kind of away from that, it's like even the road trip down to where you're going, even it's just like those places, at least for my life, have kind of opened up to a lot of memories, I think, just because we're present in the moment a little bit more. And so I think for me that's like probably why there's so many stories about that, just because it was present in the moment way more than like um, you know where I'm at in everyday life. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it was the camp that you worked at. What was the name of that camp? It was
oh, Flat Rock.
Flat Rock. That's right. There's Flat Rock and then there's Silver Birch. Oh,
Yeah, Silver Birch is another one when I was a middle schooler.
gotcha. So was Flat Rock? Was Silver Birch the first camp you went to? Like, period. Is that right?
Uh, First camp I actually went to, period. It was a little one actually at Shakamak State Park in Indiana,
Okay, yeah, I
actually.
know where that is.
Yeah, and there's like a little group who rented out the cabins and open spaces for the week, and that was like my first experience growing up there, and then going to Silver Birch, and then Flat Rock is where I worked. I never attended as a camper, um, even though it's like 15 minutes from my hometown, um, but worked there for a couple summers.
Gotcha. Yeah, and yeah, that's a. I mean, I've been to Shakamak quite a bit, but like, I mean, I don't know. The only like I guess camp I've been to, like true camp, and I was a junior counselor at the time, was Camp Eliana, right?
Okay, yeah,
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 and I did that probably, I don't know, junior, no, senior, no, yeah, senior year of high school was when I was the counselor, um, there at the camp. But other than my camp experience, it, one of the stories I was reading in here was the story of you going ziplining. You had the, well, it wasn't you going ziplining, but you had the option to zip line, right? Or you could go rock climbing, and you chose rock climbing. Um, and it was I mean, your rationality was actually pretty good from what I was reading. It was like, yeah, there's probably 25 people or so going ziplining, and you get a 10 to 15-second experience or whatever it is. Or you could go with like 3 people and go rock climbing and get multiple attempts and have, a lot of time to do so. I thought that was like,
yeah,
that was pretty, like, I guess, intelligent. I think myself, I probably would like, all right, let's go ziplining because, you don't get to do that often, and, why not, right?
yeah.
So tell me, how long did it take you to write the book itself? I mean, it's not a super long book, and that's something that like I really enjoy because anyone who knows me, I don't really read that often, and I'm just being honest. Like I try to get into it more and more, but I mean, you've only got 144 pages, which is like super reasonable. So
Yeah, yeah.
when did the idea first come?
It actually took a little bit over a year once started like writing fully, and it honestly it came in stages where like I'd get that rush to like write, for about a month's time, and then would take a month or two off, and then get back into it just because of ministry life of things
Yeah,
get busy, but also like honestly like if the creativity wasn't there, I didn't want to just half-heart it and it not be a good story, because you know people produce books all the time where it's you know just a half-hearted
sure,
attempt and to make money. But this wasn't about that. This is all about just the story of how we're made for adventure, and wanted to take time on it for people to be able to really be able to take away how they're uniquely created, but also like these aspects of adventure that they can really apply to their lives, so that it's not just a here's this now, try to do this. Like it's here are the steps that you can take to help you get there. And so wanted to be in the right mind to be able to get through all that well.
so because I didn't hear about you writing a book until it came out. Like how hard was it for you to, I guess, keep this under wraps? And I mean, maybe initially, how many people knew about this? And like, because sometimes I struggle with trying to get like a podcast out or something else that's
Yeah,
creative, and it takes a lot of time, right?
yeah,
And I sometimes I do wish I had some like physically here like to motivate me, like, hey, you need to go make a podcast, or hey, you need to go write, or you need to go finish the book. I guess kind of who was that person that kept you motivated? It was probably Caitlin, yeah.
oh yeah. Yeah, definitely like Caitlin. Told some family, and a few friends, but honestly, I didn't tell too many people, just to be like, I didn't want to start something and then not finish it, and like family knowing
Yeah.
that it's okay, but like announcing it to a big group of people and then just not finishing it, like I don't know, not that it would be embarrassing per se, but it's just like I don't like to do that. If I'm going to do something, I want to make sure that I actually finish it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't tell too many people just in case things didn't go my way. But fortunately enough, worked through it, and it took time, but yeah, just work through it, work through those bumps in the road, that the writer's block and everything, and the editing took a lot, almost longer than the actual writing itself. Just trying to make sure you have all the commas and periods and quotation marks, and does
Yeah.
this make sense? All that kind of stuff adding into it too.
Yeah. Didn't you have Samuel Grant help you with the editing? Is that right?
Yeah, he helped a ton. So kudos to him for helping for sure, because he helped a lot of like pointing in the right direction too, of just like grammar stuff to
Yeah.
not sound goofy.
Yeah, I think I don't know if he was supposed to tell me, but I think the first time I heard about it was Sam came, or he didn't come to me, but I was talking to Sam, and he's like, "Hey, Ben's writing a book." I was like, "No, I had no idea." I was like, "How do you know?" He's like, "I'm doing the editing for it." I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense." Yeah, now, but yeah, it was. I was so intrigued because I think I knew maybe one other person that wrote a book. I don't know if they finished it, and you know, you writing the book really inspired me, because that's, like I said, that's something I've wanted to do, and I'm in the process of kind of writing a book, but it's more of like it's more of going to be like a video, but I think it
Uh,
could turn into a book, if that makes sense. I don't know really what I want to do with it yet, right? And so I just kind of wanted to get some advice, for myself, and obviously, share it to the world about like the process. So did you end up going through like a publisher, or tell me more of like the technical aspect of actually taking this from like a Word document to an actual copy where it's in people's hands?
yeah, yeah. So uh, Amazon is a great place. What I love about them is it's just called Kindle Direct Publishing, where like indie authors or people who are wanting to like self-publish, can go to, and like they have basically like outlines of how to format your book that you can download, and type in that, or you can type in your own document and copy and paste it over. But they, like, their own outlines themselves or formatting have like all the things that you need, from like the chapter names. You just fill in like your chapter name and then the page number. The like copyright information, type in the copyright information. And so like that alone is just nuts to me, that like you can figure out what you want, like 8.5 by 5.5 book, or 6 by 3, whatever you want, and they have it on there to where they'll do some of the formatting for you, and then you just put your words in, and then you can upload the file, like save it as a PDF, upload the file after you work through the process of like getting all the information that they need, of like the bio, the description, the ISBN, all the kind of technical things about that. Um,
How do you get assigned an ISBN? Like I know, so I actually worked at the bookstore at Indiana State for a few months, and some like the main thing that you're looking at to like
yeah,
fill out orders is the ISBN. Is there like I guess, for lack of better words, how does that get assigned to you? Do you have to go through like some, like, I guess, establishment, or what?
yeah, you can definitely go through like an establishment, and it's going to cost you like $180, or you can go through Amazon and they'll give you one for free. Now there's like different rights that end up coming into play if you do go through like a free version of Amazon. But like I wasn't looking to, sell a million copies or to eventually go to a different, publishing company. I was just looking to, get the story out into people's hands, whether that's like, just family or, family friends, that kind of thing. But there's definitely like a, more, I guess you say, I don't know if professional is the word, but you can get like a version that it costs a significant amount, but then you kind of can run with it a little bit more freely.
Gotcha. That is so. Did you do this like all independently, and like you didn't have a publisher? I guess is what that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, yeah. So this is all independent, self-published, um, and so when we were or when I was kind of looking at like going through with it, I knew based off like just the descriptions of the different publishing houses, there was no way I was going to be able to to publish with them because it's like have a Twitter following of 50,000
Oh
followers. It's
wow,
like I don't Twitter.
that
And so it's like some of those followings, it's just like insane to be able to get up to, when you're just in Terre Haute, Indiana, working as a campus minister, and
that
um,
is so weird that you have to have like at least I mean, I would say 50,000. That's a pretty substantial like following on Twitter for anything. I mean, that's so weird that they use metrics like that. I'm surprised you couldn't
yeah,
like send in a copy of your book to somewhere, whatever publisher it was, and if they thought it was good enough, then there'd be some type of acceptance or allowance or backing. That's so weird.
yeah, yeah. And that's a little exaggerated, but it was a lot like that.
I
And
mean, well, still,
you know, where it was, certain amount of followers, or it'd be like you have to have you have to know people connection wise, with
mm,
this certain kind of agent. And it's like, you're paying a pretty good chunk of money for an agent that might or might not get, your your name in there. And it's like, to me, it wasn't worth to to do that because of like the just like aspect of the publishers could be like, well, we like this idea but we want to change these things about your story.
yeah,
And
no,
so it's like
no.
this is a story that's, on my heart. I want it to be the way I want it to be and how I feel, convicted, for it to go.
Gotcha.
So did it through Amazon. And yeah, the cool thing about Amazon is, the only thing that they don't really charge anything on you. You can uh, publish it for free, um, and like you said, you have your set price, and they take out, the price for printing and a little bit of royalty percentage. But
Gotcha.
you know, financially, it makes it to where you're not putting in a significant amount of money, like some of those self-publishing houses where, you're not guaranteed to make your money back. And so,
Wow.
if you don't, you sink more money into the book than comes back to you. And so
Gotcha.
it was like, oh, go through Amazon. It's an easy process, way easier than most of these other places are, and it's worked out pretty well.
Gotcha. So like, you don't have to give me numbers or anything. I imagine you have some metrics of how many you sold, obviously, because there would be some money coming back to you. Has like what were your expectations of like how it was going to do, like whether it was, just random people that you don't know or friends and family, and then like were those expectations met by like I guess so far? I mean, how long this has the book been out for? It hasn't been out for what, not even a year, right?
Yeah, October, this past October.
Gotcha. So what were your expectations of like you had to have like a number in your head like, okay, I could probably do like 100 or 200 like you know what I'm saying? Like obviously I said you don't have to give me a number. I was just saying like have your expectations been surpassed with this?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the the thing, like, it's definitely like sales and stuff have slowed down now that it's been out for a little bit. But I think like the thing that was interesting to me to see was like um, how long at the beginning stretch that people were continuously like buying it and stuff. And like honestly, I didn't know what to expect, and so I set my expectations super low. Like and thought like we'll increase it every time we go, you know. So it's like let's hit 10 books. Okay, now let's go 25, and you know, just setting those goals to where it's not like they're achievable goals, and but it's not something so far out where it's like I want to make sure I have 1,000 books sold. Like that's the goal, you know. That it's like you can set yourself up to fail, or you can set yourself up to succeed, and then succeed again, and succeed again. Um,
Gotcha.
and so
I mean when
didn't set expectations too high because of that.
Gotcha. So when you were talking earlier about not telling too many people about what you're doing because maybe being afraid of failure or what have you or what those emotions were, for me, I'm like quite the opposite. For me to be I'm not even joking, for me to be motivated and to do the thing that I
Mm-hmm.
want to do, I have to tell a bunch of people what I'm doing, and that keeps me in check because it's like, okay, well, I don't want to disappoint myself. If I don't tell anyone or I tell it's like a couple people about what I want to do, that dream will live and die with wherever I end up stopping at it. But if you have someone who's asking about you, asking about that thing that you're doing constantly, and you're making it known, to me, it fosters more conversation and somewhere to begin a conversation. And like the biggest thing is just keeping me in check, because I feel like
Yeah.
if I'm not invested into this thing that I say I'm doing, like I have to go all out. Like I'm a very all or nothing person, and people around me know that about me. And um, I mean, this is not a secret secret by any stretch of the imagination. I've been going to therapy lately, and I've said that to my therapist, and she's like, "Yeah, I've come to realize that you're a very all or nothing person. You're very hot or cold. It's like you want everything to do with it, and that's the only thing you want to talk about, or you just don't want to have anything to do with it." And I don't know. I don't know if it's drive or motivation or the feeling of shame to motivate me, but it seems like with all this podcast equipment, like I dove very very deep, and I'm very invested into this. And I actually, before I went
Yeah.
to or before we started the podcast today, I went and got a new computer to run the podcast on. I'm gonna switch from my laptop to a Mac Mini, and I think that'll alleviate a lot of or most of the problems I've been having with this laptop that I've had this laptop since 2015, and so I've run. But like when I bought it, the laptop, I mean, it still has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It has an i7 processor. Like I bought this as like a really beefy, awesome. Like this even has an integrated graphics card in it, and it's really made for stuff like this. But with video editing software, I've had some issues with trying to play back video on the software and whatnot, and the new Mac Mini with the M1 chip in it, I think is going to run everything a lot smoother. I mean, because actually, you haven't seen this, but on the podcast so far, I've had problems with OBS where either it like randomly resizes to you to be like really big or really small. And yeah, it's just the investment I need to do something. I hate it because I have to dive all the way in, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can be harmful. But if you take that and you actually are able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, then obviously in the end it's all worth it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like speaks to like two sides of the coin where we all have like different motivation factors too.
Yeah, it's so weird, and it's interesting what people pull motivation out of. I mean, whether it's competition with their friends or like with you, like you inspiring me to, you know, create more, whether that's podcast or trying to do a book or two of my own. Like, is like, cause how you're, cause I'm 24 right now. How old are you? You're not much older than me.
25, getting ready to be 26.
Okay, yeah, I'll be 25 in June. When do you turn 26?
June.
Oh wait, hold on. What's your birthday?
The 22nd.
No way. Mine's the
Is yours
24th.
20? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Pretty close though.
Yeah, no, that's really close. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, I don't know, but I know that. Oh man, I'm kind of elated right now because I'm surprised that all this is working, and like because I've wanted to have you on the podcast for so long, but whatever it was in me was, I don't want to say scared, but it was like I knew you would come on for sure. It was just I don't know, a matter of like reaching out and, you know, I don't know what it was.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I don't know. I mean, you just had a child. Like, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, like, cause I don't. I mean, I could definitely see you writing more books in the future for sure, and you may be right now, but you're probably keeping it under wraps, you know. But I feel, because I mean, you're putting out podcasts. You wrote the book. I mean, your child wasn't here by the time the book came out, but you're still you're still working your full-time job as a minister. You're still, you know, fostering a relationship with your wife and your dog. Oh my gosh, your dog is insanely cute. I forgot.
Thank you.
That's so funny. But yeah, so kind of let me get back on track with the book. You met your wife going to camp, or it wasn't camp, but it was it winter or fall retreat?
Fall retreat. Yep.
Gotcha. It seems so. I feel like you're gonna be that dad or that person that takes or makes your kid go to camp no matter what. Because like, look at me, all the best things. I met your mother going to like a camp, and I grew closer to God by going to this camp and everything. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll probably go into like the fall retreat and winter retreat and all that kind of good stuff, and go on to summer camp when they're able to go to summer camp. And just because I know, like, for me and my faith, those weeks were like huge catalysts to taking, you know, steps closer to Christ. And like almost every time, whether it was like a bad week or not, usually it wasn't a bad week, but if it happened to not be, you know, like what was expected, there were things that I was able to learn, you know, that still helped me in my relationship with Jesus to grow. And so like knowing that aspect of like seeing the places where it helped me grow, like it's going to pretty much be a requirement to get him out of his element to go there if he doesn't like camp. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
The one thing that I thought was pretty cool about this book was the fact that, you know, of course you have scriptures in here, but you tie in scriptures to moments in your life that, you know, had become pretty pivotal and pretty life-changing. And to hear those personal stories that not everyone gets to hear unless they talk directly to you, one of the stories that was highlighted was you in wrestling, right? And your record was what, 1-2 for the year. I don't know how many matches there are, but I obviously 1-2 is not that great. But there's this particular reason, because that was the same season that you had your head injury, correct?
Yep. Kind of concussion for.
Yeah, and it's funny because I guess I had a slight concussion one time. I don't know what a slight concussion is, if there is one, because I didn't have that severe symptoms. And I recall you talking about the test that you had to take on the computer, and I know exactly what that test is. It's called the impact test, isn't it?
Yeah, yep. That's right.
Yeah.
It's been
yeah.
Yeah, that was the name of it.
Yeah. So that was the impact test that you had to take, and it was so crazy that you scored in the bottom 2 percentile. And how like how long did it take for you to get back to normal?
So I think I ended up taking that test 3 times. First time was kind of like a initial, like, let's see where you're at, and everybody, if they have like a true concussion, like everybody does terrible on it, but it's just kind of like a let's see where you're at. But then the second one, like, was that bottom 2 percentile still, and that was like, I can't remember how long it had been. I think I had done, like, redid the test like 2 different times. The second time I did it was like 2 weeks later, because that's like usually like the precautionary like timeline of wait 2 weeks, then you can take the test, and if you pass the test, then you have the physical test you have to pass too. And didn't do too well on that one. Then we were like, well, if it's still that bad, then maybe it's like a time will heal thing. So took a month off, and at that time, that was like getting ready for the last month leading up to the end of the season, where it's like sectional, regional, and I failed that one too, pretty much bottom 2 percentile too. And so it was like that's it. I mean, it's not worth missing the entire season and maybe being able to come back that last week way out of shape, not even close to where, skill wise, where I should be at that point, and could possibly, a little nick could send it back even worse. And so just took the time off, let it heal, and that led to pole vaulting, because like, I was pole vaulter, and so it was like, at least I would be able to have a season of something that I could do.
So what was it, 3 months you felt, after about 3 months you felt normal again? Is that about right?
It was pretty close to 3 months, yeah. And like, I think the thing that really like stuck out, like thinking back, was like I felt fine, but conversations with people, I would just like stop talking to them and immediately engage in a conversation with other people while the other person was still talking to me.
Wow.
And they'd be like, what the dude?
Well, I read in the book, your friends, when you were talking to them, they said you sounded like you were drunk almost, in the book. And it's so crazy how fragile like the body is, and how fragile the mind is. Because you went head to head in wrestling on the mat, right? And let me try to recall the story. You went head to head on the mat, and you wear headgear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the headgear is just like a little strap. It just protects your ears, right?
Yeah, it's mainly just for ears.
So you don't get cauliflower ear.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
would
big ugly.
I would try to wrestle without the ear guards or whatever, so you can have that badge of honor and let people know, hey, don't mess with me. I got cauliflower ear.
Dude, that was the thing in practice all the time. We didn't wear it.
Really?
So yeah, it was just like people would, but I really couldn't tell you like maybe if I was really feeling it for the day, I'd wear it. But um, most of the time, we didn't wear it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy because I mean, in the book you said it wasn't that hard of a bump you took, right?
No, like I could tell you like several different stories where I got hit way harder in the head, but it was just got hit in the right spot and sent me back.
Or the wrong spot, if you will. Man,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
wrong
so
spot.
crazy. Were you? I imagine you were pretty sensitive to light for a good while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I had to wear sunglasses pretty much just for the weekend. Once, Monday came for school, like I was fine. But yeah, I had to wear sunglasses all the way home. Um, like even through the gym, like walking out.
I would get those like sick, like old lady sunglasses. Is that what you had?
No, I didn't have those. It was just like
Just regular ones.
just regular sunglasses. Yeah.
That's super funny. So tell me, I guess, uh, for lack of better words, tell me how you were mentally during that time. Because I mean, like I said, I've only suffered a slight concussion, but I have torn my ACL. And before and after my ACL, it was like a night and day difference of my confidence in what I'm able to do, my confidence in my running. And even after post surgery, it seems like it's maybe not the same or as it was, but it's fairly close. And even running today, it's still kind of like, okay, be safe. Don't make any like sudden movements. Keep your knee in alignment and keep going. And when it gets icy out and it starts to snow or it's slippery, I get like super paranoid and it's like, all right, we need to get all the snow away. We need to get salt. It's like it's
Yeah.
kind of like this, maybe like a mental blockage in me that's kind of like, okay, take it easy and be safe, but it's also like you're not able to live the way you want to live. It's kind of like you're sheltering yourself. Do you think there was any of that after your head injury?
Yeah, I think to some degree, uh, just the aspect of like um, going to practice, because I still went to practice and would watch and like try to help people out, kind of learning the ropes of like what coaching would be like. But it was frustrating, like watching people didn't try, like not trying at practice. It was like this is why you're not very good, and you get ticked off that you're losing every match. It's because you're not even giving it a good try. And I think that was like eye opening to me of like knowing the work ethic I had, and like the people I would work with. Obviously, like we would work hard because we wanted to do well. And then seeing teammates just not go all out or half-hearted, and just seeing that was just disappointing. And you know just from I was surprised that just from the aspect of like, I guess you say, taking a backseat as a coach, of being like, man, this is frustrating. I understand why the coaches are upset most after most matches now, of like our team score not being very good, because a lot of people don't try and practice, and then they expect to be a state champion out there on the mat, and it doesn't go that way
Well,
you know
I mean, I think there's something to that where when you step back and you're looking at it from another perspective, so you're going from like a first person point of view to a third person point of view,
yeah.
you're getting some perspective that you may have never seen before and
Hmm.
couldn't realize. I mean, it sounds like when you took a backseat and you started to kind of be like a coach, you were seeing these things that maybe they weren't seeing. But it's easy to be like an armchair quarterback when you're not in the fight. You're not the one getting tossed
Yep.
around, right? And so it's like you watch a UFC fight. It's like, oh, why didn't you see that coming, or you didn't do that? Oh, it's a completely different game when you're like face to face with the monster, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's completely different than
Yeah.
what you think.
Exactly.
So this is I mean, obviously this is a pretty off topic question. So I don't. He's probably a lot older than you. There's a guy by the name of Bailey McComas. He's from Shelbyville, and
Yeah, I know Bailey McComas.
no, no. Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to him in a long time, and very, very lightly knew him, but I definitely knew him.
That's amazing. Cause all right, so do you know what he does now?
No,
He works for Pat McAfee.
are you serious?
Yes,
What?
he's like a video editor for Pat McAfee.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Because I mean, I've watched quite a bit of Pat McAfee, and I've watched. So there's the there's the Pat McAfee show, and then there's the Pod, which is another podcast that comes out of the like Pat McAfee studios. But yeah, Bailey McComas, he works for Pat McAfee up in Indianapolis.
That's hilarious. How do you know Bailey McCombs?
From the Pat McAfee show.
Just from hearing the name?
Yeah, because they'll be like, hey, well they call him Bill, so they call him Bill on the podcast. But I've heard before that his name's Bailey, and I was like, oh, and I've heard him say he's from Shelbyville. I was like, wait a minute, I know someone else who's from Shelbyville.
That's hilarious. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, I would say you could look him up on Twitter, but then I realized that you don't have a Twitter. He has a pretty large following on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter, but yeah, he likes to open Pokemon cards on or I think it's YouTube. I don't know. He live streams him opening up Pokemon cards and whatnot. But I thought that was a good connection.
Yeah,
I think
that's hilarious.
it's so interesting because, like, when I did the Hot Ones interview with you, I think I asked some pretty okay questions, and I should have saved it for the interview, but I was like fooling around and I found that there was a rapper that came out of Shelbyville and I forget what his name was. What is his name?
Oh man, his first name is Mitch.
But yeah, I'm sure he has his own like stage name, if you will.
Yeah, if I heard the stage name, I'd be like, yep, that's Mitch. But oh man,
that's so crazy. It's kind of interesting to see like the
Kid Quill.
Kid Quill. That's right. Yeah. It's pretty interesting to see the connections that like the people coming out of Shelbyville. Obviously, there's Bailey McComas, and then there's Kid Quill, and then there's some other historical people, if you will, that's come out of there.
Yeah, going way back in the 1940s when Shelbyville High School won a high school basketball title. There's Bill Garrett, and he broke the color barrier for basketball in the Big Ten.
Wow.
For playing the IU.
That's what I was gonna say. He played for IU, yeah.
And he actually got drafted to the Boston Celtics, but I think it was for the Korean War. He got drafted, and so he never got to play in the NBA.
That's so crazy.
When he got back, he wasn't able to play in the NBA.
Wow, that's so crazy. I've never been to Shelbyville. I feel like is there any reason for me to go visit? Would you say?
There's few reasons. One of them is Lenny's Donuts, which is a pretty good donut place. There's Grandma's Pancake House, which is a really good breakfast place.
You're listing off all food right now.
Oh, that's pretty much it. There is so there's a book that we used to read in middle school or elementary school called The Bears of Blue River, and the story takes place like in Shelbyville, Indiana, and there's like the little Blue River and the Big Blue River, and like those rivers go right through Shelbyville. So like if you read that book and really wanted to go hit up some of the historical sites, you can find them. But
that's so funny.
Other than that, yeah.
Gotcha. Kind of what to backtrack a little bit. What I was trying to get at is, I wouldn't say, yeah, it didn't. like when I tore my ACL, it didn't put me through a depression, but I think it changed the person who I was, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely took me on a completely different track of life. Like I wasn't intended or really on the path I was going to, and for certain, I think I'm a completely different person because of the ACL tear and everything consequently after that. And it seems like almost that concussion that you had put you on a completely different life track, whether you know it or not. Because I don't know if it was super clear in the book per se, but when I was reading the book, it sounded like because of this head injury, if you will, and this was right around when you were about to graduate high school, and you didn't have much of anything to do, and so then that's when you become not a camp counselor, is it?
Yeah, I went into the that summer I went into being a camp counselor until like leading up to school, first year of college.
Yeah, I don't, because I did the junior counselor thing for 1 week. I couldn't imagine, and it was a volunteer position of what I was doing, but I couldn't imagine being there every single day. Like you weren't really, did you ever leave the camp for that entire summer?
It was so if I remember right, you got a night off where it was like you'd leave around five, basically from 5 to midnight. You're able to do whatever you want, and so usually because the camp was so close, we just go over to Shelbyville and get food. Go to like Walmart to like buy like snacks or gadgets, whatever we needed. But then the Saturday after the campers left, it was basically noon to noon. So um, you could leave for 24 hours or you could stay, but usually people left to get out of there for a little bit,
Yeah.
because you're going to be back anyways. And so really we were there every day, the whole summer. And there was 1 week you would be able to have, like, I think it was like 30 hours off. So you'd go home a Monday evening and then come back the next evening. So it'd be like a Tuesday at midnight. Um, and so that was the only time off though.
Wow, that's so crazy. I can imagine. I mean, I imagine camp was pretty fun, but was every single week of camp the same, or was it different? Like I imagine the programming was a bit different because I don't know if you'd have high schoolers, but you'd have anywhere from elementary to middle schoolers.
Yeah. So we had kindergarten through senior year, and the so a lot of the programming was the same but different because each week was a different theme. And so some weeks would be Harry Potter, some weeks would be like Olympic week, or um, just whatever, Western week, different kinds of themes. And so the programming would kind of be based around that, like basically like switching up the main game to be Western theme, or whatever. But then the other regular programming things like clinics, which are like rock climbing or uh, canoeing, that kind of stuff stays the same throughout the day.
Gotcha.
But uh, yeah, so it was interesting. Like some weeks were rough depending on the kids you have that week, but then if you had like the best kids ever, it was like the like basically the dream week.
Yeah, I mean,
You loved camp.
and I think it kind of just varies on the group that you get, because there's a kid that I had that was in my group of like 5 or 6, and man, I tell you what, I don't know what it was. The adult counselor and myself, like we just couldn't have him in the group, and I think it was almost to where I think he was kind of like he got kicked out of our group. I don't know if he was gonna get kicked out of the camp, but he ended up going with another counselor. And after he went to the other counselor, for whatever reason, he tightened his act up, and he was fine for the rest of the week. I mean, it's craziness. It really is.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I imagine you. Have you gone back to like camps, whether it was for like middle school, high school, to like work those camps in the summer, or is that something that you're like thinking about doing? Because I mean, you'll have plenty of time off with like ISU going on summer break.
Yeah. Yeah. I have been open to volunteering, but just like most of the weeks just haven't like lined up, or it'd be like um, if I were to work a week, well then like next week I'm going on like a conference with the campus ministry, so like I won't see Caitlin or family for 2 weeks, and so a lot of the timing things just haven't worked out right. But I'd be open to like volunteering for a week or for a few days to help out,
Gotcha.
depending on the situation.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think it's the majority of what I wanted to talk to you about, and obviously we talked a lot about camp because it seems like at least the first part of this book is related to camp, right? And being
Yeah.
in the outdoors. I guess. Do you have anything that you want to, I guess, plug? Obviously, you can plug your book again, and then you got the Made for Adventure podcast, and I don't know. You can just tell people what you got going on, and maybe like a little message that you got for people who maybe struggling right now with the pandemic. I know there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel right now, as vaccines are rolling out, and places are opening up like Texas and Mississippi, and there's more advanced. The restrictions are being lifted. But I mean, even with myself, maybe not necessarily COVID related, but the past couple months I struggled pretty greatly. But now I'm in a really good to really great headspace that has a good outlook and a good light for me. And there's a lot of things that I'm working on to make myself better or to advance something to the next place. So yeah, just tell the people what you got.
Yeah. I think like just the biggest message of most of these things that I do is like, uh, like what is written in your book, chase your adventure. We all have great ideas, and some people have ideas and they shouldn't have ideas, but we all have great ideas, and we need to share them with the world. I think we have a lot of God dreams and God ideas that if we were to go after them and chase after them, we would see, our lives change in big ways and see the world before us transform in big ways and in good ways. And I think, like, obviously, there's the aspect of, I don't want to pursue that, that's like completely life changing, life altering. And, sometimes it is. But then there's like, like writing this book was like, I knew the goal in mind and set steps to get there. So, like wherever we're at in life, whatever you want to go after, have the end goal in mind, and figure out what steps, or create an outline, whatever you want to call it, of how to take those steps to get there. And I think, a lot of us have these big things and we just have no idea how to get them started, or what to do. And if we take the road to discovering those steps, I think we'll live, you know, more adventurously, and the way God has led us to live. So.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Ben, thank you for coming on the podcast, and yeah, thanks for coming on.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
For sure. Okay, we're good. I always forget to tell people at the end is I need to pause.